Trump has floated the idea of opening up federal land to build housing. Although the idea is in front of the news right now, this is actually not a new proposal. I'll explain why this idea in its form is bad and why we do need to get rid of federal landholding and better ways to do it. This brought out a lot of people who pretty much are opposed to ceding a single inch of federal land, including many Trump supporters. I talked about this in an earlier video that I titled Trump's Futuristic Cities. Now, I like the theme of his idea, people competing to build some futuristic design. Past attempts in other countries to build futuristic cities where none stood before have generally failed. I suspect this would probably fail as well. Now, if there's a chance that something like this could work, it could only come from a populist idea rather than a government mandate. The issue being, without market forces directing the location, the odds of government picking a spot where a town can flourish is low. I put the odds as just a little bit better than bad because it involves our developer in chief. So, this particular idea is bad. Getting the feds out of owning land would be good. First, this current proposal. The biggest problem here is, unfortunately, federal land has become nationally democratized. Everyone believes they have a stake in it, even if they live in some distant metro and have never seen a wild animal bigger than a rat. The next problem is failing to use market forces to discover the best use of the land. The government picking the use of the land is a lot like zoning. Consider your typical moron city council. We have a housing shortage. Hey, did you know there's endless square blocks of empty strip malls? Oh, that's another issue. Well, no, you have empty buildings that could be quickly converted into living space. But it's zoned commercial. So change the zone use. Yeah, but that's zoned commercial. Finally, this plan is too open to manipulation and the wrong kind of people getting ownership of the land. Why does the federal government need to get out of the landholding business? Well, first, they are constitutionally limited to what they can hold. Controlling vast swaths of land is actually illegal and is contrary to the agreements they made when the land was acquired. They were supposed to privatize it so that it would become the domain of the states. Also, the government is a horrible steward of the land. Now, it's bad enough that the federal government whipsaws between control by Luddites and control of hyper-developers. However, often, even when government is being even-handed, it applies nationwide use ideas on highly diverse areas. Grazing, timber use, and mineral use need to vary by location. Locals would make better decisions here. The big item is not how much the land is worth, it's about what its potential is. Right now, almost every acre of government land is a management cost, when it could easily be cost neutral or wealth generating. My recommendation would be to shift the land to a land holding company. How it would break down is a future detail. It could be one big land holding company for the entire US, basically taking all the federal land and shifting it into this company. Or it could be maybe a dozen regional companies, or maybe it's a single company or several companies for each state. Again, that's details. Each company would have an initial charter set up for it and a caretaker board with limited powers. At that point, we'd issue shares, millions of shares for each company. The shares would then be distributed to individual taxpayers, not corporations, but individual taxpayers. Mom and pop and the billionaires would end up getting the same amount of shares. So, why give it away like this versus selling it? First, and please prove me in any way that I'm wrong, the federal government will F up any attempt to sell land. I guarantee you, any attempt to sell land will result in the government getting very little money and insiders walking away with all the choice real estate. It's just how government functions. Any attempt to sell, no matter who manages it and how they do it, will end up having the same result. Individuals holding stock in the company can opt to sell or hold. If they sell their shares, they may opt to sell to entities promising good use rather than selling it to some Chi-Com company or BlackRock nightmare buyer merely because they're offering top dollar. In the end, it's not about how much money is made up front. It's over the years the value that will come out of it. When the feds don't have to spend money badly managing this land, that's immediate savings. Ownership in this manner increases a feel of democratic take on the land use. And basically, boards controlled by shareholders, who are the taxpayers, will come up with an alternative of different ways to look at the way their land should be held. Some areas might be completely hands off. Some will figure out, okay, what areas can we put into use to leverage money coming in to basically pay for pristine areas that we don't want developed in any way at all. But the point being is the best use of the land is not always development. Tourism can be the best use of land. Uh, Occasionally, doing things like grazing and timber removal, limited uh, mineral removal, or in some cases where the land itself isn't particularly interesting, it could be fully exploited. But since this throws the process into many, many, many different buckets, you minimize the possibility of one thing going completely wrong. Basically, picking a parcel and saying, okay, the highest bidder gets it, almost guarantees that no one's going to be happy with the results. And essentially, someone's going to benefit at the expense of everybody else. My idea is not a top dollar idea. My idea is a try to maximize happiness idea. All right, in the comments below, have you heard ideas like this in the past? What do you think of the current proposal that's out there? Uh, or are you just happy as heck with the feds owning everything? And tell me why you think that is. Please smash the like button. Uh, Check out my other titles. I get into a lot of different things. Odds are good you're going to find something you like. You should subscribe to see the future stuff I come out with. If you know someone who might find this interesting, share it with them. All right. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.